Hi, ladies. Welcome back to another episode of the First Generation Millionaires podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Barr, aka the Female Entrepreneur Coach. And today I am so excited. I'm joined by an incredible woman, Diana Alsammouah.
Alsammouah.
So sorry, we literally rehearsed beforehand. I'm so sorry, I'm going to get that wrong. Who an incredible transformation coach for women, and I'm really excited to share not only her journey but also what is possible for you too, and her wisdom. Because we met recently at a retreat, and energy's everything, and I just saw you across the room, and I saw you nodding with what I was talking about, and I was like, she gets it. And then when I learned that you were obviously a coach that works with women who have survived like narcissistic abuse, this is something that I've been really excited to talk about on the podcast, because as I just said a moment ago, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And your relationship with money is so much more symbolic of just the physical transaction of money. It is about your relationship with self and what you're willing to receive. And that will absolutely be filtering out into your relationships. So thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm so excited.
Oh,
Um, yeah.
I can't wait to dive into this topic, because I think it is something that actually isn't spoken about enough. Definitely not in terms of like friendship circles that I used to have. Like we never had conversations about, relationships in this sense. But I think more and more women are starting to wake up to, how they've been treated, and understanding that it's more than just, oh, he's a bit of an ass. It's actually like there's some very like psychological warfare that's going on in these relationships. And the more that I
Yeah.
can shine a light on these experiences and equally find resource and values to help you overcome this, the better. So would you like to start just by kind of sharing a little bit about what you do, who you help, and like obviously your journey to becoming this coach?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I am a transformation coach for women, mainly women that are healing, have left toxic relationships, narcissistic abusive relationships, and they're really wanting to rebuild their self-worth, their confidence, and just basically build their life and start something that's aligned for them, whether it's a business, a personal brand, whatever it is. A lot of my audience is mainly single moms as well, just because that's my story. But yeah, so how I actually got into this, I left an abusive, emotionally abusive and a toxic relationship towards the end of 2023. And I left with my newborn. I left to I had to move cities, yeah, and I had to literally like rebuild from rock bottom. Like what was said before, I had no support system, no money, absolutely no one. So I was at rock bottom, and I just decided that I want to rebuild my life. And obviously through my own healing journey and learnings and everything that I've done, I was able to transform my life in like 6 months to now basically 2 years, around 2 years. And so much has shifted that it inspired me to start sharing my story online. And then the purpose and the vision became so clear, and I was like, I felt so alone when I was at that stage at rock bottom, that I couldn't see anybody online that was relating to me. And I was like, oh, I wish there was somebody there online on TikTok or Instagram. And I think that was at the back of my mind. I was like, I want to start sharing that as much as I can, because I do know that there's someone out there that might be still stuck in that relationship. They don't know that it's abuse. They don't know that it's possible to leave and rebuild, and let that be, an inspiration for them. And then obviously it progressed into me becoming a certified coach and launching my coaching program. And yeah, that's literally my purpose. That's my passion.
Wow, honestly, I got chills with that, because as much as I kind of say like, oh, I'm unsupported and all the things, I get a lot of support in my children, because I have the older ones now, and we're very much a team effort. To do that completely by yourself with a newborn, which is a journey in itself, moving from, being, I mean, a woman in your own right to then becoming a mother is no mean feat. It is such a journey that we don't talk about enough as women.
100%.
Like we're expected to bounce back and act like, work like we don't have kids, and then parent like we don't have a business or responsibilities. It's so
Yeah.
hard. So to do that as well on top of everything else, like wow, like you are incredible, genuinely. Oh, with a newborn, especially my first newborn. Oh
Oh, it was so
God.
hard. Yeah, it was really hard. And I actually, this is why I understand and I have so much like empathy for women in these relationships, and why sometimes people don't understand unless you've been in it. But sometimes they're like, oh, you've been there for like 6 years, you've gone back 10 times, you've been, why? But now I totally understand. Like, luckily, I didn't stay for years, but I actually left when I was, I would say nearly 5 months pregnant. So I actually left, like I escaped for good and moved to that city, and I got like a tiny place, and I spent most of my pregnancy alone. But then I
Oh,
still went
it's
back just
hard, isn't
before.
it?
Yeah, it was really sad, but
Because you're like you say, there's no positive role models online with single mums doing it themselves. It's always like the gender reveals and the like the highlight reels of these couple goals and all the things, and it's supposed to be this beautiful sacred experience like becoming a mother, and you didn't have
yeah.
that. So
Yeah, I didn't have that. Like what you said, like some people had their mom, their this. At the time, I didn't have anybody. And I, but then because I didn't have anyone and people let me down, I was terrified of the birth. So I
mm,
actually gave him a chance, and I went back just before giving birth. So I
mm,
understand when people do give chances and go back, even though you know that it's bad for you.
yeah,
And it just got worse. You always think that I want to keep that family together, and you think that they're going to change. Obviously at the time I didn't even know what abuse is, what narcissistic is. I just knew something was wrong, I guess.
and
And
they
then it got
at
worse.
you and said like, when come back when the baby's
Yeah,
here,
of course. Yeah,
you have
yeah,
everything.
they put on this, yeah, they put on this whole, well, they give you this hope of everything's going to be amazing. And yeah, it got worse. But like what you said, I was in a very vulnerable period. I was a first time mom. I
Mm,
was in a totally different city where I didn't really know anybody apart from him.
mm,
And I was vulnerable. I was dealing with, like what you said, people don't talk about it,
mm,
especially if you are with a narcissist. They don't care about, postpartum depression. They don't care about you going through all of these changes, like none of that. And I was obviously
all about
always in that. Yeah, they have no clue. So obviously I was like just stuck in survival mode. I was actually abused during labor. So like it was all really difficult, but that's what led me to leaving. Like it
mm,
started getting so much worse, and I was like, my son doesn't deserve, it's just not right. He doesn't deserve to see his mom like lose herself completely. And I knew if I stayed, like I would completely lose myself. Like I had no choice but to leave
yeah.
and make sure that he's in a safe environment. But
Also,
yes,
like you're raising a man, aren't you? So I always talk about like that for me will be my biggest achievement. It isn't just about, creating strong, independent, like resourceful women, because
mm,
but it's about that example that you then set for the boys as well. I've got two boys, and I'm like, I don't want them to
yeah,
believe that this is how you treat women. I want them to see what it's like to be an emotionally regulated, emotionally aware, like supportive partner, and if that means that they need to see me alone for a period of time, that's absolutely fine, because I don't want them to think that men are meant to act in this way and that women are disposable and second class and
100%.
all
Yeah,
of those things.
yeah.
Wow, that's really incredible. But I totally understand. So I'm because what a uh, so I'd love for your insight, but my interpretation of a narcissist is it's and obviously I have like a psychology background, so I've always been
Oh
curious
wow,
the
okay.
psychology of a narcissist. And it's essentially somebody who typically has experienced some element of trauma in themselves when they were younger, i.e., their needs weren't met. So their ego has essentially created like this persona where it's a way to keep them safe, but they've learned very quickly at a young age to be manipulative, to be that really they don't love themselves, they're not happy people, they are not fulfilled in any way. So they're becoming like almost social chameleons that are
Mm,
just taking from everybody else around them to help to maintain this perception that they have of themselves. So they,
yeah,
because to everybody else, they alienate you, make you the problem. They make you feel like you can't cope without them. That they'll tear you down at every opportunity, but equally, lift you up at other times. So therefore, you feel like you never really know whether you're coming or going. They'll then and everybody else will think they're a great guy and you're lucky to
Yes.
have them. And equally, they'll tell you that everybody else is terrible. You're lucky to have them equally. So you just continue to accept this bad behavior. You abandon all sense of self because it's all about keeping them happy and keeping them like calm. And it just comes in so many different forms, doesn't it? So what's your kind of interpretation if somebody's listening and they're like, yeah, but isn't that just men? Isn't that just like how it
Yeah.
is? What do you think is the thing that kind of makes somebody narcissistic rather than just being an asshole?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's so many different like hidden signs and obvious signs, but like I feel like they definitely target empaths, like
Yes.
100%. It's all about like supply and demand for them. They just want to, like, usually when you're starting the relationship, they're kind of, they are, now I see it, they're usually like broken.
Mm,
They need fixing. They
yes.
just don't have anything going on with them. They're going through something crazy, and you're like this, in like you're energetic, you're bubbly, you're happy, you're an empath, all of these things. And then when you get together, they start sucking the energy like out of you, and it becomes like the opposite. You're fixing them, you're fixing them, you're doing all of these things, and they're taking everything from you and they're making you feel like you're absolutely nothing. And it's like supply and demand. And then that's why when you leave, they're just looking for the next person to take to do the same
Mm.
thing,
It's
basically.
that narrative in their head, isn't it? They need to continue for people to think that they are like the shit, basically. And
Yeah,
when you start to see them for who they are, when you start to like detach, then they realize they're not getting anything from you anymore. So they're going to go to somebody else who still has that rose tinted glasses, who still wants to save them, who still believes the version of them that they are projecting out into the world until they obviously get closer.
yeah, yeah, 100%. And obviously they do love bomb you, and this is the thing that happened to me. Like, they love bomb you so hard that you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, we're gonna be this perfect family, or I'm gonna have, the best life with them, and everything's gonna last. But that's only the start, just to keep you trapped and to get you to a place where, you're staying with them, basically. And then the mask starts slipping. Usually when a challenge arises, anything that happens, the mask will start to slip, whether it's when I don't know, when you get married, or when you get for me, when I got pregnant, when something happens, or when you live together with them. Like, I started living with him, and that's when I started seeing things. But that's when the mask starts slipping. And again, it's so difficult to, that's why I try to talk about some hidden signs, because honestly, a lot of the people that I speak to, including myself, they don't realize until they're gone. It's so difficult, like I said, to be like, you know what, relationships are not perfect. Like, this is just normal. No one, he used to say to me, for example, like, oh, everything that you see on social media, all of your friends, all of my friends, like, you're seeing what you're seeing, but behind closed doors, they're worse than us. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, okay.
We should
Especially
be
if,
lucky. We should be
yeah, you
grateful.
should be
Everyone are like
yeah.
everybody else.
Exactly. And the other thing with narcissists is that the reason why you might feel like you're the problem, not just because of them, they're usually surrounded by enablers, and they're even worse than narcissists.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that. But now looking back, I'm like, his friends were narcissists or
Yeah.
enablers, and they saw these things as normal. They
Yeah.
didn't, like, they saw everything and they saw it as normal. They would treat their girlfriends bad, and that was normal. So again, you just feel,
And you would get the view that it's like, well, at least I'm not this person because he treats me like
yeah,
this.
yeah,
You're
exactly.
lucky I'm not like them. And you're like, well, you just need to get better friends. That's part of it, isn't it? It's and they so one thing I noticed was that they kind of rally the troops to again make you the problem, you the outcast, and
Yeah.
to reject you. So because obviously we're all driven at our very core by needing, as I said at the retreat that we were at recently, we're all
Mm-hmm.
driven by that need to be accepted by our tribe. So as soon as they start to say, I'm not the only one that thinks this, I've spoken to
Yeah.
my friends. Everyone says that you're a see you next Tuesday. Everyone says that you are like the worst and that they would not put up with it. They need that. So whilst they're kind of single-handedly, like you say, rallying the troops, enabling everyone because they're only
Mm.
telling them from their spin, it's almost like the first thing that they want to do once you've had an argument is get on the phone, tell
Yeah.
everybody, make sure that everybody agrees with them, while
Mm-hmm.
single-handedly like removing everybody in your corner that
Yeah,
could
100%.
offer
Yeah.
an alternative you that actually genuinely cares about you. It's really quite calculating. And like you say,
Mm-hmm.
as us like good people, we can't really believe in our mind that somebody
It's
would be
possible.
that strategic. That
Yeah.
like why would they? Because we know that we would never do it. Like I would never want to tear anybody down, but that's exactly why they go for women like that, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's, I think I've read about it as well, where they said it's like, it's because they can never ever, they're not capable of loving the way you love. They're not capable of actually doing the things that you, so that's why, again, they suck the energy out of you because they can never be that person. But
Yeah,
the other thing that and I think a lot of women also deal with this is, we've been, there's this myth in the society or like online that if it's not physical, it's not abuse. And that was what I thought. So
yeah,
like what you said, well, these people fight and, slap each other behind closed doors. We don't do that.
yeah,
But actually, emotional abuse can be can be so damaging. Like,
yeah,
sometimes I've spoken to women that have experienced both, and they said to me they felt that the emotional abuse was sometimes more damaging than the physical. Obviously, there's levels to this, but when you lose your whole self-worth,
yeah,
and you become basically whatever they tell you to be, whatever they tell you to do, you don't have an identity anymore. And I experienced that, where I had no say. I was terrified of even thinking my own thoughts, didn't even know who I was outside of survival mode in the relationship, and everything I was doing was what he wanted me to do, even if it was like not what I believed in or what relating to my values. This is what the manipulation gets you to. That's why it's so dangerous. Like, you start losing your, not just your self-worth and self-esteem, but you start believing that you're that person that they're telling you to be, and you're sacrificing your own values, your own dreams, your own like hobbies, and you get isolated. Like, and this is the thing, the biggest and the most hidden sign that I didn't realize is isolation. Now I know that it's so common,
mm,
but they do it so naturally, where you're like,
mm,
hold on a second, I'm not friends with anybody anymore.
yeah,
And that's how, when so when I left, for example, that's why I didn't have anybody. I
yeah.
wasn't speaking to family, I was speaking to my close friends. Like, yes, I was in a different city, but my life was literally him and
Yeah.
survival. There was no
Exactly
time.
the same
Yeah.
experience. I'd relocated to, so there was that physical like distance, but also
Mm,
they convince you that they're the only ones that really care about you. Everybody
100%.
else are just like trying to use you. They're talking about you. They don't really care about you. So
Yeah.
again, like it makes you cling to this person who is supposed to be your savior, but actually treats you the worst than anybody ever has. And I
Yeah.
definitely had that. But I think as women, like we
Hmm.
need to so I'm again another reason that I'm so fascinated in this conversation. Like we are so quick to judge, and when I met this person like yourself, I had my own career. I obviously like a lot younger now, but I was like attractive, I had my own house, I had my own car. Like I would not be what I thought was a typical person that a vulnerable person that would accept bad behavior. But a narcissist is like next level motivation. like
Yeah.
like you say, the love bombing. I couldn't believe that if he wasn't genuine, like the lengths that he went to get me to even look his way, because I wasn't, first glance I was like, oh no, like pretty boy, not my vibe, like obviously a player. And he went so far and beyond to prove that he wasn't that guy, and that I was, that ugh, like now I'm like, oh my god, the motivation. Like he could have made his millions by now if he'd just put that energy into him
Yeah.
rather than chasing me.
That's
But then
crazy.
obviously, yeah, once I'd moved, it was very easy to then isolate me from family and friends. But what I was most disappointed about was
Mm,
actually, as women, like we need to be more compassionate to each other, because equally I got the discard from them much easier than
100%.
I would have if I saw somebody kind of, you know as an emotionally evolved being now, if I saw somebody that had literally relocated their kids, their family, to be in a situation and all they had was this guy, and they're starting to not be available and da da da, that would make me want to lean in more. And equally, I shared a few things, but rather than them rallying to be like, we need to help her, they were like, well, then she's an idiot for staying there. So
Yeah.
it's like, again, confirming the beliefs that they didn't have my best interest. And it was so easy for them to turn away and leave me with nothing. And then it's like, well, no wonder I keep going back to him, because I don't have anybody else. And I'm like literally struggling here, and you're all judging me and you're all
This
making
is
me feel
crazy.
bad. Yeah, that's
This is
what I would love as a takeaway, is that as women, we start to be accountable with actually, yeah, do you know what? I did do that. And I did leave that person in that situation. And again, like probably making yourself feel better that, well, at least their life is a car crash because mine is better and I'm not in that relationship. But actually, what we should be doing is being compassionate sisters that are like, even if I haven't spoken to you for 6 months, even if actually you weren't acting like the version of you that I recognize, there is always a safe place for you to come back to. I will always care
yeah.
about you.
Yeah, 100%. I love so many different things that you've just touched on. That's like, it also breaks my heart because I'm like, it's crazy that so many women that like experience this whole like cycle. It's so, yeah, it's really sad. But the one thing that few things that you mentioned that I resonate with as well, like, and I've said this before, like what you said, like, you can be so beautiful, you can be so successful, you can be so smart and so independent and still end up in a narcissistic relationship. People always think that it's the women, the people's perception think, oh, it's the woman that doesn't have money and she finds somebody and because she needs something that's totally not the case. I was the provider in the relationship, actually. It wasn't
Same.
meant to like I
Like, could you? I have won the lottery with these women. Like, oh my God,
yeah, I was. But again, it was because they were like
broken
I
energy.
was fixing him. Yeah, I was like, oh, believed in his dreams and I was doing everything to give him his dream and make it possible and provide. And I was like so in my masculine as well.
Mm,
And but like what you said, so it's totally nothing to do with independence. It's nothing to do with you being confident, with you being smart, you have a career and being beautiful. It's absolutely not that. You can still be a victim of narcissistic abuse because of the whole love bombing, because of, especially I think, like, also, like, now looking back, there is like accountability piece of, because of my childhood, and I'm sure you can relate with this, childhood trauma and the way you've been raised and the way whether your parents or what you believe about love and about men subconsciously at the time. I didn't have, like, my self-worth was like down the hill, you
mm,
know and that's how I also kind of attracted that, and I didn't subconsciously, and I didn't see the red flags. I didn't see the signs, because now I'm sure you're the same. Like, now I can sense like, I can see the signs miles away. Like, it could be a
yeah,
conversation and I'm like, okay, signs of a narcissist, like, stay away. But when you're kind of obviously conditioned from society, from experiences and previous relationships, or like your parents' relationship or whatever, subconsciously you might not have that self-worth and the right beliefs around men and health relationships, that it becomes very difficult for you not to see, even if you are very beautiful and very successful and all of these things. You can't, like, it doesn't mean that your self-worth and your beliefs, and subconsciously you're not attracting the
yeah.
wrong relationship.
If
So
anything,
that's
they
something.
saw your success, um, despite your kind of trauma, because that's what we kind of bonded on. That was part of the love bombing, like considering where
Oh.
you've been, like you are amazing, you're insane, and it'd be like, oh, like your ego is going to love that to a certain extent. And I've never been a woman that's like, I need people to tell me I'm pretty, but it was next
Mhm.
level. It was like, no, but you don't understand, like I'm so proud of you, like. And it was just everything, I guess, that you'd always wanted to hear but didn't necessarily want to admit, because I thought I was like, put together. And then kind of coupling that with the fact that he seems so broken, so sad, like,
Yeah.
so, like you say, unfulfilled, and then you kind of, and they're like, oh, I wish I was like that, I wish, you know, I could do what you do, and you're like, you can, because you're a good
You
person.
saved it.
And it's like they become the project, and you're like, I've got you, I'm gonna help you, you're amazing. You start pouring into them, and they're already like, yeah, I know it, but they're not showing you that. And yeah, it's just so interesting, isn't it? Like how it happens without you not even realizing.
No, no. And the relationship thing with the friends, again, I've experienced it. And this is why, like I said, we need to be so much more compassionate, even if you've not been in an abusive relationship. Because I feel like a lot of these friends, that the same thing, like they kind of stop speaking to me because you're always like, let's say, talking about them when you have arguments or when something happens. And then they're like, oh, you need to leave him, you need to leave him. And then they see that you've gone back, so
Yeah,
they kind of think, well, she's just being an idiot. And that's how, when you come back and when you finally leave, they say they're going to be there for you, but then they're just thinking it's her fault. And this is
yeah.
so, it's honestly, it breaks
Equally,
my heart
they
because,
they can create a lot of drama, can't they? So it's
yeah,
almost self-preservation. They don't want to be in the middle of it. They don't want to be involved. But equally, like you say, and we've got to remove this expectation. So
yeah,
I had a conversation like in LA once with two women who were arguing. They were like friends, and one of them was like, well, she should just know, and she should do this, and she should like think of my needs, and da da da. And I was like, can I just be really fucking honest? As probably somebody again who's been through a lot more fucking pressing issues than this, but equally, you know, I think I'm more bold. I was like, you are putting far too much pressure on another person to be your everything. How
yeah,
about we just accept everybody for where they are and give them
yeah,
grace and stop like putting our own projections onto that person. Like she's a good person, we would agree. She's just done something that she's probably not even aware of. So let's remove that pressure that she needs to be your everything, and you're just like have an adult conversation about it.
yeah, yeah.
Because yeah, all of these women that were like, you need to leave him. First of all, on his side, so like his mom, his sister, his relatives that were at family functions where they're like, that's not okay. You need to leave this guy. They were the first to
Mm.
rally around him when I eventually did, and like make me the problem.
Wow.
And like we don't know what she said. Like basically, kind of go against everything that I had spoken out about, um, and which felt really like destabilizing then, because it's like,
Mm.
hang on a sec, maybe am I the fucking problem?
Maybe
I
you
don't
are the problem.
know. Like
Yeah.
these are the women that told me to leave him, and now they're like turning it. That just felt like the ultimate betrayal. But equally
Yeah.
with my friendship groups, it was like, well, on your head be it. If you're going to be with him, then I can't be friends with you because
Can't
I
be friends
can't
with
watch
him.
it.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Like,
Mm.
it, especially when kids are involved and everything else. Like, there is so
It's
much
not
more
that
to it.
simple. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
especially as an evolved parent, like you're trying to make sure that the kids are ultimately, and basically what how it came to a head was that
Mm.
I said to him, I left for the kids basically because I was like, I would rather you be the hero in the kids' story and be the
Oh,
fun dad at the weekends, and I'll take the shit because I then them see you as the villain, because and
oh,
have to deal with your temper and your moods and your anger. Because it got to the point when my son was like, can't you find somebody else, mummy, that actually like,
wow.
because his projections would then turn on to them, because as the kids get older and they've got opinions
Mm.
and they've got things, they would try and control something that is not controllable, like not in a physical sense, but like kids aren't dogs. They, you can
Mm.
tell them to come here, they're not going to. Like they'll do whatever the hell they want. And I always joke that like my daughter was like, that is your humbling experience from Jesus. Because she has not one fuck to give, and she is not scared of anybody. And he would be like, come here, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
She'd be like, you can get your fucking ass off the chair, and you
I'm learning from I'm learning from mommy. I'm
yeah.
being raised
Well,
by.
no, I wasn't even that audacious, and I'd be like, wow, I need to be this girl when I grow up. And like, so therefore it's like he would then get the hump, and I would be like, I would rather you be like her hero than the guy that kind of breaks her, and
Yeah.
that meant taken us all out of the equation. So now he gets to be the fun dad, and I'm telling daddy, and I'm this and I'm that, because obviously you can't. You
You're
still
taking
can't,
sacrifice for the sake of like,
yeah,
the kids
because
still having that
equally
relationship.
I don't want them to see me being treated like shit and putting up
Yeah,
with it and thinking that that's how that
it's
works.
normal.
Yeah, absolutely not. I'd rather than, and how does it work with you now with your parenting dynamics? Is he still involved? Are you trying
No, so
to?
this is yeah, so this is so interesting to hear like yours, like the end of story slash perspective. One thing that I want to touch on that I've personally experienced that also is why we go back a lot. Um, I actually was always like kicked out by him.
Yeah,
Forget about everybody else saying leave him, leave him. He actually kept telling me to leave, like
yeah,
verbally abusing me and saying, get the heck out, want to be single. Da, da, da. Like that was happening and I still couldn't leave.
yeah,
But that's the other thing that's so deep that people like don't understand is that because there is that trauma bond that I didn't realize at the time, but psychologically, like now I know that it's literally like a drug addiction. So
yeah,
this whole they put you, and I would love to hear like if you had this experience as well, where it's constant extreme highs to extreme lows.
yeah,
It's this I love you, I miss you, you're my everything. Like that, I'm the I'm a broken man, and you've saved me, and I can't live without you, because we do save them. Like I did
yeah,
save him from a situation that he was really like in, and but then give it 2 days and it's a total breakdown, the total opposite, going down the hill. And even though it's like you're suffering, that that this is not good for you,
yeah.
you're literally addicted to this. You're addicted and you don't realize it and understand, and people don't understand. They're like, he's treating,
Why I say
yeah,
best the devil you know, because our brain will always go with what's familiar, and we can become addicted to the stress hormones that are
yeah,
involved. And it's almost like when things are really bad, then it's almost like for a tiny moment, you have a moment of leverage because they are then
mm,
so fucking sorry. And you're almost like just so grateful for the quiet period in between, where
yeah,
it's like, they'll suddenly like, then it will be like you'll have the worst thing happen, and then the next day you're on a family day out because you're
yeah.
like almost like so fucking grateful for this like nice version of them where you could say do
Mhm.
anything and they're going to be accepting and they're going to be showing up with their best energy like they did at the beginning of the relationship. So therefore you have like an incredible family day out, and it's like you almost just don't want, you need a break from the arguing, so you're
Yeah.
accepting and you're like, okay, yep, let's just have a family day out because I just need
And
something
it's
nice. Oh,
100%.
yeah,
And it's also going back to the first love bombing stage. Like,
yeah,
oh, I remember the good times. I know this can be better. I know they can get better. Like this
yeah,
constant hope of them changing. You're
yeah,
doing every single thing, and apart from being the provider, like you're doing every single thing in your power to do what they want just because you've got that hope of they're gonna become a better person.
yeah,
They're gonna finally meet me at where what my needs are,
yeah,
even though they're like very like the bare minimum, and
yeah.
it just never happens. It's a constant cycle. So actually, so obviously I ended up
Like
leaving
a
again.
roller coaster, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a roller
You
coaster.
almost
Yeah.
become complicit in it because
Mhm.
then you almost become complicit in it because then you
Yeah.
are accepting it. So what you're
It
not,
becomes the norm. it
yeah,
becomes it becomes your norm. It becomes like, yeah, this is just a new day, the same cycle, and you just feel trapped. Like I remember feeling like I'm like in a prison. I was like, how, like, is this gonna be my life? I remember having like this light bulb moment when I was like cleaning or like brushing the floor or whatever, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna be like in this prison for the rest of my life. Like I actually
my
thought that was
good boob years on this guy. Like, what?
sorry.
You're wasting like your good boob years on this on
Yeah,
this.
yeah, I know. Thank God I didn't. I didn't actually like. I think it was only like a whole year. I think from like it didn't take so many years, but that's how I felt and thought. I was like, that's it. I can't leave. There's like I'm trapped psychologically, mentally, like financially, and that's the other thing. I'm sure because I was the provider, I didn't realize, but I was like eh, like without realizing I was also financially abused. So
Yeah,
I was going like, into these debts and getting personal loans and doing this and doing that. And, you can drive my car and getting fines. And I was like taking on
I
all.
gave him a Range Rover. Like, who?
Oh my God, that you mentioned that. I mean, he used to drive my car, but you're.
Yeah, and I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, but again, there must have been some part of me that was going along with it because I wanted to believe it was true, or
Yeah.
because I look back now and I'm like, what the fuck? Like he wouldn't even get like a fucking toilet roll out of me now, like let alone a Range Rover. Like what the fuck where was I? Like
And it still didn't do it, it
yeah,
still didn't fix them, right?
yeah,
Like this I mean, your example is even better than mine, but I didn't realize this whole financial abuse
yeah,
situation until I left as well, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm drowning in debt. And
yeah.
that's again, that's their way. And obviously,
Which
like he
adds
was
another
saying,
layer of like keeping you stuck, doesn't it? Because then you
exactly,
can't go and get
exactly.
like a rental place because you've got bad credit. You're already at maxed, and there's also an element of shame and guilt around that. And I honestly totally get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, it's honestly, yeah. But in terms of like how obviously I also left for my baby, but also for myself, because I was like, I can't, like my son, I was spending
How old
most of
is
the
he now?
time with him. He's 2 years and 3 months, so he's still tiny, yeah. But like I obviously, because I was breaking down, and like I know that I obviously, you obviously talk about it a lot in the retreat. That's why I was nodding all the time. Like I know about subconscious beliefs, and I know about conditioning, and how children absorb everything from like 0 to 7. And because I know that, I was like, my son has been in an environment where it's not safe. There is no role model. He's going to be obviously learning all the things that are wrong about how men should be treating women. And he was kind of a loser. Like he didn't really have anything, he was saying all the right things, but in action nothing was really happening. And obviously the one person that our kids have and need is us at the end of the day. Like I'm spending most of my day and time with him. So if I'm breaking down, if I'm losing myself because of my mental health and financial whatever, I was like, he's already absorbing the energy. They definitely feel it. Like I was like, I don't care if he's a newborn.
Yeah,
I don't want him to take all of that and grow up with all of these, like, bad energetics and subconscious beliefs. And I was totally losing myself, and that's when I left for good.
yeah,
I knew, yeah, I saw the patterns. I actually planned an escape plan, like, like a few months before. I was like, okay, I know I'm leaving, I just need to make it happen.
yeah.
Didn't
What
know
did that
how
look
it was gonna.
like? So,
Hmm?
'cause I'm
Yeah.
curious on that. So, what did that look like? If there is a woman who is currently like in a similar situation where, like you say, it's crazy as well, because a lot of the time I remember sitting there thinking, like, if I'm the only one that's unhappy, like, is it really that bad? Like you say, they're not hitting the kids, they're not like being, mean to them or anything. If anything, he would almost gaslight the kids. Like he would be great with the kids because he knows the kids are going to say something like to and he would want at school and all the things, like they're always asking questions and things about like, what did you do at the weekend? And it's almost like he would be priming the kids, like, make sure you tell your teacher what we did this weekend because it was da, 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 da. And it's like he would be
Gosh.
devastated to think that anybody outside of our circle thought that he was a bad guy in any way. So yeah, so what did that look like? What did that escape look like?
Yeah. So obviously when I was, what I mean, it was really bad, but before it got so much worse, when I left the first time, I actually moved back to my city. And somehow, honestly, like I manifested, God was with me. Like I found a very not cheap, but very like affordable, like tiny flat, one
Mm,
bedroom flat, that I got for myself. So that was when I was still working. So I still had my job. Yes, I was drowning in debt, but I made it happen. You know what I mean? And I basically,
and did
that's
you
when I
literally just
left.
leave? Like
Sorry.
did you literally just leave one night?
Yeah, yeah. I said I'm gonna leave, and I mean, obviously, I this is the other thing that I couldn't just say I'm leaving and just disappear because I was still living with him. I kind of had to also like plan it in a way. I can't remember what my excuse was, but I was kind of saying that like, oh, I need to go back and I need to get this like flat because things are not working, and I just want to take a bit of space. Like he knew things weren't working.
Yeah,
He
but
wasn't
he
happy
still thinks
either.
there's a chance, so he's like,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the plan was for me
yeah,
to, exactly. So the
yeah,
plan was for me to obviously like, come back or whatever. And but in my mind that wasn't the case. I just wanted to leave safely without him
confrontation.
saying you're not yeah, because even though he was kicking me out, this as soon as I say I'm leaving, he's like, no,
Yeah,
stay, like whatever. I actually love you. I was messing and stuff
yeah.
like that. So
Oh, I did a
I
thing.
managed to.
Like, oh,
Sorry.
when I told you that I was sleeping with other women, I didn't mean that. Okay. It's like,
Yeah, it was honestly, it was so bad. Like, and there was cheating happening and all of these things, and like it was just so toxic. Like, I would be living next to him, and he would be like, "Oh, I'm single, by the way." Like, why
what?
you say I'm literally pregnant? Why you like
Yeah,
we don't need to, it was just all so toxic. But I left, and yeah, obviously I was dealing with the pregnancy by myself, and I still had the flat. And then when I went back for giving birth, and I stayed with him for a few months, obviously he was telling me to leave that flat. He was like, "Oh, you need to rent it to somebody, like why are you still paying for that? You're living with me now. Like,
yeah,
we're building a life together here." And I honestly, I don't know if it's like a mother's instinct, a gut instinct, like, sign from God. I just I didn't do it. I felt like maybe I still needed that place.
yeah,
So I was still like, yes, I had debt and everything, but I was still paying, even though I wasn't financially like doing okay, I was still paying for it because I knew that like at some point something's gonna happen.
yeah.
But actually, sorry, I
It's a
forgot. The
sad
first
way
thing
to
that I
be,
did.
isn't it? It's a sad way. I had that as well. It's like I know there's some part of self-preservation in me somewhere where this is not going to be my forever. This he's not going to change and things aren't going to turn around. This is not the person that I'm going to end my days with, but I still can't leave right now because it's like I
Yeah,
have to like kind of mentally think of like when the most convenient time is.
it is.
Sad way because
Yeah,
then you can't plan holidays. Your life doesn't move forwards. You're constantly like, yeah, we could potentially do that for the kid's birthday, but we'll have to see what happens close to the time. Like
yeah.
all the time, it's just you're in limbo, aren't you?
Yeah, I was gonna say I totally forgot the escape plan. I've said I've skipped
So
a
when you
step.
finally left, how,
No, no, before so the
oh,
first time that I left, actually, before I got the one bedroom flat, I was trying to do everything else. So I was trying to call like charity organizations, council, like all of these places to see if I can get out in the city rather than going back. Nothing was working. Like I was pregnant, and they're like, "Oh, there's a wait list, or you need to be living in this place for five, all of these like different things. You need to be living here for 5 years. You need to know people." I was like, "Oh my gosh, like nothing's working. I don't want to. I don't want to risk being like homeless and just being in like Wales somewhere." So I actually ended up going to my mom's.
mhm,
That was, even though the relationship wasn't, like, as I said, like it wasn't really there, and she was actually like, I don't know if they're called COVID. Um, there is like the name for the narcissist that you mentioned, where they're like the perfect person outside.
yeah,
So every single person sees them as this angel, including my own family,
yeah,
and friends. And that's why it makes it so much harder for people to believe you, or for you
yeah,
not to look like the crazy one. So because that was the case, my mom actually couldn't believe, like she kind of thought he's a good person. She's met him. He's like, "Oh, whatever." So when I moved back, when I moved to hers, just as an escape, and I'm so grateful, the relationship wasn't there. Like she
mhm,
still didn't understand
yeah,
what was going on. She still wanted me to go back, and I was like, "Okay, this is not working." So I used me staying in her place to find the other, whilst working, to find the other flat. So that was my kind of like escape, not
yeah,
plan, but that's how it worked. I found somebody that was safe, even though she didn't understand, and it
yeah.
didn't work out at the start. But when I hear people like, saying to me like, on DMs, like, "Oh, like my sister or my friend is going through this, and she knows he's a narcissist, and she's stuck, and she doesn't want to leave. We want her to leave. What can we do for her?" I said, honestly, the best thing that you can do is just make her know that you're gonna be there for her regardless. Like what you said, like the shaming, the guilt trapping, that you need to leave him now, this needs to come from her.
Ultimatums. Yeah,
Yeah. I said, as sad as it is, she will need to make that decision to finally leave.
yeah,
However, if she knows that she's safe to express her feelings, even if she was to go back, even if she wants to stay, if you can, show her that if you ever decide to leave, you're welcome to stay in my place. Oh, I'm gonna help you get, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
this if you have a safe person that, obviously, it's, as we know, because of the isolation, it's very difficult. But if you do have one person, whether it's your mom, whether it's your friend, that understands that, and you feel like, okay, even if I'm not gonna stay there for a long period of time, I can at least get out, because the most important thing is you actually getting out
Yeah,
of
it's
there.
breaking that cord initially, isn't it? Is interrupting the pattern of
Yeah.
like say going back and because then literally it's linked to your survival. Like you feel like you can't do anything. I remember afterwards, like where did I go? I went somewhere to go and get coffee, and the guy that I got the coffee from was like, "Do you want something to eat?" And I
Mm.
was like, "Yes, I'm hungry." He was like, "What do you want to eat?" And I was like, I have no fucking idea. I am so
Oh my
like
God.
disassociated from my body and my needs. I am so used to somebody
Wow.
else telling me every single thing about me, because he was always on a health kick or a gym kick or a
Oh my
something
God.
about his appearance that would then guilt or shame me around what I wanted to eat. That it would almost be easier to be like, okay, we'll just go where you want to go. We'll just eat what you want to eat, whatever you think. Like I just
Oh my God.
didn't care to have the argument all the time. So I had just kind of forgotten about that. And that's just like crazy because that's reminded me, like you say, it's
Oh my God,
anything to interrupt
that's
that pattern.
insane. Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
You've just reminded me of something as well. But I would say the other thing that people can do is that there are actually so many like charity and organizations that can help. I was just, because I was like close to giving birth when I went back, I was like I just couldn't, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't think about waiting and being on like a wait list, or like just being moving all over the place. And thank God I had that place to go back to.
Mm.
um and you
And how was
and
your birthing experience?
oh my gosh,
That was terrible.
it was yeah. So I gave birth like naturally, and I think I was in labor for like 9 or 10 hours, but it was horrible because one of the reasons I went back is because I was like, I don't have a birthing partner.
Yeah,
Honestly, I was like I'm independent, and
yeah,
I'm being used to so much, but when I got so heavy,
yeah.
and it was I was like, I'm struggling to do things now. Like
You're
I was
vulnerable, aren't
panicking.
you? Yeah,
Yeah, I was vulnerable. And it's, yeah, so obviously he, you know, he didn't really care. He was sleeping or whatever. But during like the birth, like no, when I was in labor, like in the hospital, like honestly, the verbal abuse like was, you're not like, why are you moaning? You need to just
yeah,
push. Why are you this? Why are you that? And I was
yeah,
like, oh my gosh, I fell on the floor because I had to walk 10 minutes when I was in labor, right? At like 5, 6 in the morning, because I couldn't walk
yeah,
at 5 in the morning. Like no one cares. No one was on the street.
yeah.
And he was like, you're so embarrassing. Get, you know, get up. And I was like, and I was obviously dealing with that, but because the pain of the the
Yeah.
labor and the you know, like because of the pain of the what do you call them,
The
uh,
contractions.
yeah, the contractions, I was like, I can't even deal with this pain.
Yeah,
So I need to just, you know, think
yeah,
about my birth.
yeah.
But it was crazy because like even the people in the hospital noticed the signs of the abuse, because like he took my card to get something from the shop, and they came and spoke to me. This is
Oh,
what's crazy. Yeah, they came and spoke to me, and they're like, are you okay? Like we see this, but I couldn't be honest. I was like, I,
oh no, it's
I
okay.
just,
Don't
yeah,
worry.
I said it's okay. I was like, you know, because
I,
part of me felt like, you know, what if they take like my son away from me? Like I don't know where I'm gonna go. I just had to kind of pretend that everything was fine. But like they did actually see the signs, which is crazy, because I was like, how do they know?
Yeah, well, do you know
Like,
what? I had the same experience. So I had the first
oh
two
my
babies that I
God.
had with him. The first one, he nearly didn't make because he was out making phone calls and doing everything else. So I think that was and it was such a quick delivery. But again, the whole
Ah,
time
okay.
beforehand, like I'd started to have contractions, and he was like, "You better be in labour because this is like fucking 11 o'clock at night. You're taking the piss." Like,
Oh my
okay.
God.
And then I remember him like afterwards, they were like, "You can go home if you want." And she was like, and he was like, "She can't come home with me. I'm fucking knackered. I need to go home to sleep. You have to keep her here." And I'm like,
No,
"Okay, I'll
stop
just
it.
stay here then." With after a traumatic birth and all the things. And then the second one,
Oh
I was
my God.
induced. So we were had it was during COVID. So essentially, he had to quarantine with me. He was furious for 2 days. you won't get this reference, but there was a show like back in the day called Banged Up Abroad, and it's like people that get like it was like that because it was so hot. It was the summer. He was furious because they hadn't given him a bed. He wasn't allowed to leave the room. So by the time
Oh my
we actually
God.
like I started like they actually broke my waters. Like we were
Hmm.
barely talking. He was literally like doing the discard where he's over the other side of the room, like making me feel bad. So there was no like massages. Are you okay? Like let me get you something. And I had COVID and the baby was born with COVID, so I was also super ill. But every
Oh
time the
my
midwife came
God.
in, he was like jumping up, like, oh, uh, and then literally to the point where afterwards, because I had gas and air, like it goes past so quickly, doesn't it? And you don't really, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, tell me what happened then. Like, at what time was this? And he was like, I'm only going to tell you this once. I will never speak to you about that labor again. What you put me through, I will never forgive you for, basically, because I was like so loud and crying. He was like, you're mortifying. And then on the final labor,
Oh my
I actually
God.
got an epidural. So it's the
Okay.
first time for all my six babies, I got an epidural.
Wow. I can't believe it. You're
I
like a
know.
superwoman.
Oh, it was so,
Wow.
but I think, like you say, the midwives are so much more in tune now. I think they are
Mm.
trained to recognize
Yeah, I think
signs.
they're trying.
So what
Yeah.
basically happened was, and I truly believe this is like angels like saving me,
Mm.
but I because I really wanted this beautiful like experience. Like most of my labors have been traumatic, and I, for whatever reason. So essentially, what happened was he kind of phased out into the background, and I was so lucky that I had like a student midwife there. I had like the main one, and then I had another one that had come in, and he was really trying to get on their good side and like tell like because he wanted them to be like talking to him, and they at every turn were just like next, like, and then so we're like just ignoring him, and I could see his frustration. He was like, what about if I go and get you all like coffees again, taking my cards? And they were like, no, we're good, thank you, like
Oh my God,
just
that's
cutting him
crazy.
off. And I was like, yes, yes. And then by the time I was actually pushing, he wasn't, I don't even know where he was, like I'm not even sure if he was in the room, what he was doing, but I just had this beautiful like support
Oh,
network
thank
of
God. Yeah.
like,
They're amazing. They're lovely, aren't they?
yeah,
Yeah,
I think
usually,
he might have
yeah.
even been behind me. And he was saying afterwards, like, oh, they were just gaslighting motherfuckers, telling you were close when you weren't, telling you like they could see the baby, they couldn't see the baby. And I was like, I don't
Oh,
even know.
that's such a typical nasty
Yeah.
behavior.
And
It's like, are they all brothers? Like, it sounds like
they get
this is
a handbook, I think, at some point, maybe in high school, where it's like, this is how we need to treat women in order to get our needs met, to make sure that we're okay and we don't ever have to change. Let's do this, do this. But it was the most beautiful experience I've ever had. And I truly believe that was my angels helping
yeah.
me to see you don't need him. You will be fine. Women will come forward
Wow.
and you will be surrounded by sisterhood to some extent. And honestly, the quality of friends that I have got since we've left, like, have been insane. And there's so much light on the other side of that. So if you
Yeah,
are like
100%.
scared, and I truly believe, like, as women, the more that we empower ourselves, and this is where like the link for money comes in from me, because it's not just
Yeah,
about financially being able to leave somebody. It's about what you're willing to receive, right? As we said, like it all comes back to that, like the boundaries,
100%.
because it will be the
Yeah.
same in your clients. Like I'm sure that you
Yes.
attract a really nice caliber of client now that actually appreciates you.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Once you cut that like cycle of I'm done tolerating this, and you start, and this is the thing, like what helped me rebuild like and heal is like m- I literally started reading a book by Dr. George Spencer called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. So I've actually always known about manifestation, but because I had like and I believe in God, and I was going to church as well when I was there, even though he was never coming with me, but I just needed something to just give me hope.
Yeah.
And I started reading the book of Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and even though I knew about manifestation, it was really giving like a lot of scientific facts about the power of your brain, and like real life stories of like people that cured their cancer and all of these things. And I was like, oh my God, like if I can start believing in my mind, if I can start doing the things that I'm in control of, even though I was still stuck with him, and I genuinely believe that my faith and me understanding this gave me the strength also to leave, because I was like, otherwise I'll be thinking nothing's going to change. But I truly believe that I kept like envisioning and like using affirmation tapes like when I'm sleeping, because he can't like obviously, you know how it is. They're like, oh my god, you think you're spiritual baddie, like what you
Yeah.
doing? This is all nonsense. Every time I get my journal out. But I tried to do these things like when he wasn't like watching. So I would listen to affirmation tapes to try to reprogram my beliefs around safety, around love, um like just small different things. And I would envision myself literally like being on holiday happy with my son, and I kept doing that, and like I didn't think anything of it. And then when I left, I just continued doing the same thing, and I continued working on my subconscious program. And I know you spoke about it in the retreat, like my nervous system regulation, subconscious reprogramming. I had to just learn to just get out of this victim mentality of people disappointing me, the whole victim mentality of course it's not fair that I was abused, doing, of course it's not fair that what I've been through, no one deserves this, no woman on earth, never mind a mom, deserves to go through what she's been through. But I really had to take accountability and be like, you know what, you missed the signs, and that's okay, you didn't know better at the time,
But
but
you
you
do
can
now.
change that now. Yeah, the
Yeah.
only way you can actually heal and rebuild is if you take accountability and you say, you know what, I had a part in attracting this, I didn't know better, I was vulnerable, like I have my biggest blessing, my son. But for me to actually like rebuild my life and like manifest a healthy relationship with my family, which I have now, manifest like a better financial situation, a better job, all of these things, I need to start like you know deciding that that's going to be my new reality. And that's what I
And what
started
your
doing.
story, that's the thing where so many women get stuck, is that trauma becomes their whole identity.
Yeah.
It's like their excuse for not doing things. I had a very abusive childhood, and I've got a sister that is very much, that is her whole personality. She will
Oh
never
my
move
God.
on or want better for herself or even try, because for her that validates her. That's her reason why. But for you, like, you can't underestimate the work that you've done. Like, I'm so grateful for incredible women like you, because like you say, you give inspiration to other women that there's an alternative, and you speak about it so beautifully. And you're out there sharing your story, where a lot of women would be holding shame around that would be wanting to hide away, stay small, not experience any more judgment or rejection or abandonment from anybody else. But you've obviously done the work, because
Yeah.
you're not only, again, using that trauma to heal yourself, but you're healing others in the process. And I always say, like, coaching is the double blessing. So even on those days, even I was still with him and I felt like I have no value to anybody, I'm just fucking useless, I'm rubbish at everything, I can't do anything according to this guy. When you come on a
Yeah,
coaching
yeah.
call and you've got a client who is so grateful for you, and even like postpartum, where you feel like a hot mess all the time and like everything's leaking and you just don't feel like your sense of yourself anymore, when you go onto a coaching call, you're reminded who you are at your very
Yeah.
core. But when your clients are like, you're amazing, thank you so much, like, I feel so much better, you're like, wow, I made a difference today. Like,
Yeah, it's
I made somebody happy today and made their life a little bit better just by doing things that feel natural to me. Like, that's the
yeah.
double blessing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. And like I think, I don't know about you, but coaching changed my life as well. So when I was able to start investing in, like, I of course I started with free talking therapy, and then I looked at people online, like single moms that started their fitness journey, because I was abused into exercise actually 2 weeks after giving birth. Yeah, I was I wasn't even fat. Like I was
Mhm.
told that I'm fat, I'm this, I'm ugly, I'm all of these things. I even need plastic surgery, but I'm so glad I didn't do any of these
Yeah.
things. But my relationship with fitness as a total beginner was so toxic.
Yeah.
Like I hated it so much because it triggered me. It reminded me of control. So as part of the subconscious reprogramming and me, this is why I love social media so much, because yes, it can be toxic, but it can also be like literally life-saving and empowering. Because when you don't have a support system, like when I didn't, where did I go?
Yeah.
Yes, I used talking therapy, but I also started looking online, and I found single moms that were rebuilding their body, and it was helping their mentality through fitness.
Mm.
And I started watching them, not thinking that it was doing anything in my brain, but it was changing the way I saw fitness. It was me listening to a single mom that's just been through the same thing that I've been through. Even if it was an abusive relationship, she was talking about things that I can do without, aggressively exercising. So the first thing that I did when I like had my sister say that I'm going to support you is go to the gym, for example. And the first thing that I wanted to do, and that was like when I started seeing shifts in my life. So within 6 months, as I said, from subconscious programming, nervous system regulation, and I went back to work. And when I went back to work, yes, it's my accounting 9 to 5, but I had a bit of like income, and I started, exercising. All of these things started shifting, and that's when I decided to like get a coach. And then I started to, share my like my kind of a bit of my story online. So it was actually only last year August that I started sharing something about me being a single mom, like online. And then that's led to more investing in myself, being so obsessed, with the mind, with healing, with breaking, releasing all of these limiting beliefs. Like I use NLP, belief change tool, and I know you know about NLP and like all of these amazing stuff. So like I believe in them so much because they helped me change my entire life. And because I know the power of coaching, I know that's why obviously I'm like a money mentor. That's why I became a coach, and I launched my coaching program, because I'm like, I know that it can help someone so much. Because I always feel like the most qualified person to help you on your journey is someone that have gone through some struggles that you've been through, but also have gone on the other side, and they're a few steps ahead of you, and they can show you what's possible. So they can hold your hand. They can, they can obviously show you that you're not going crazy. They can show you what's possible. And that's how you break generation cycles. Because it's funny that your podcast name is First Millionaire Generation, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yes,
thinking about it yesterday.
yeah.
Yeah, and I absolutely love it. But I don't know about you, but like I'm the first person in the family to actually like pursue her dreams, like exercise. Like no one. I'm from Syria, like I'm Syrian, so like they don't care about any of these things. And like what you said, like my mom and my sister, like they still have these beliefs of they're happy, uncomfortable staying in this like negative victim mentality, self-talk, or like not even like just where they are in life, and this negative self-talk. And even though I try to obviously talk about everything that I'm passionate about, if they don't want to change, like honestly nothing can change somebody, even if you've given them like a
But
you
you
know
can't underestimate the value of you lifting your vibrations and you doing the work, the ripple effect of that. Even like
it's 100%.
they are
Yeah,
picking up on it, definitely. And
they are,
I
yeah.
believe like as women, the more we do that work, the more that we can't, like you say, we can't control other people. We can't control things that are going on outside of ourselves. The only things we can control are ourselves. And the
Mhm.
more that we start to do that healing work, the more that that affects everybody else around us anyway. So
100%.
I
Yeah,
love that. I love that so much.
it
Honestly,
shows them what's possible. Yeah.
yeah, and I just think more and more women are starting to wake up to the fact that we don't have to be downtrodden, miserable, grateful, but toxic grateful. Like we can start to have it all. And that's why for me, as much as I talk about the money, what I'm actually talking about is women living life on their own terms without apology,
100%.
without having
Yeah.
to deal with other people's shit, without having to compromise. Like that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. And for me, that obviously looks like helping female entrepreneurs, because the more that you have financial empowerment, the more that we can all make a change.
100%. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if women want to come and find you,
Oh,
I recommend they totally do come and find you. Sorry. Come and find your socials. Where is the best place to come and find you? I know you've got a lead magnet also.
yes. Yeah. So, my name is Diana.empower on social media, on Instagram and TikTok. And yes, I've got a free guide. I've got, a mini guide that's called Wire to Rise, that talks about all of these amazing tools that I've just mentioned, that I personally use to help rebuild my life, because it starts from obviously from your mind, and then everything shifts in your reality, relationships, money, purpose, everything else starts to shift. um and I have my signature program, so it's called Rebuild and Rise, which is a 3 months coaching program, and that's my most impactful transformational program, because I work with single moms and women that are healing from toxic relationships and are wanting to build an aligned life or a business or whatever. And I take them basically on this journey to make sure that they do rewire these beliefs. I do also one-off sessions for NLP belief breakthrough sessions. So, but I try to also use my platform, obviously, to create more content that can speak to these women. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Can you
absolutely what I
imagine the
do.
ripple effect of that? Like, this is why I just love the work that I do, because in any way that I can showcase, platform, support any other woman, like 100%, because the ripple effects of what you're doing will be felt for generations, like you say.
Oh my God, 100%.
Like,
Yeah.
even just in your own family with your siblings, but also with like your son, he will know, and you'll know now that you're healed, you're not even going to attract somebody like that into your energy, into your aura. So the next guy that comes along is going to be an
Oh my
embodiment
God.
of
Yeah.
divine masculine. That will be his role model going forwards. um
100%.
and equally, these women as well that you're working with, like, when you know better, you do better, and the kids are just going to be the absolute, like, receivers of
Yeah.
that.
Just
So I'm so
exactly.
excited. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And for your gifts, obviously online, I will make sure that everybody can find you if they resonate with your
Oh, thank
story,
you so
and
much.
strongly encourage that they do. But just thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.